球場では2秒に1人が亡くなっています。
These were the words many people in Japan reported seeing on their TV screens in 2004. This was accompanied by what some claim a railroad track with train signals playing in the background as two white figures flashed in and out on the screen. This event was coined hitogata, or shiroi hitogata. Users began discussing this on 2chan, an anonymous site used in Japan. Users were talking about advertisements that scared them when they were young. An anonymous user claims that when he saw this on his television set, the text had read that every 2 seconds a person dies on Earth, and every time the bell rang twice, someone was no longer alive. While some believe it was aired on TV, others recall it being shown at elementary schools as some sort of PSA of some kind. Even with all these claims along 2chan, there's never been proof of the video actually existing. This image is a representation of what people claim to have seen back in 2004. There are many different memories of this commercial, such as the video was only 15 seconds long, that there were no train tracks, a voiceover that read something similar to what you heard at the beginning of this video. Years after, Japanese users on 2chan were still discussing this commercial, and they narrowed it down to the air date of the late 1990s to the early 2000s. After the hype died down about this commercial, 5chan users in 2019 began discussing this again on a new thread. As of today, there is no proof of this commercial ever airing on TV, being shown in elementary schools, and no companies claiming it. Many people believe this is a case of false memory, and this never actually happened at all.
だがこれで 100% このエリアにはユウキちゃんがいないと判断できる。そこで捜索エリアを拡大。行方不明現場北側の森と池の反対側まで広げる。そして捜索から1時間後、森の北側で K9 が反応を示した。
Greenery Day is celebrated across Japan to bring people closer to nature and appreciate the environment. Many people go hiking, camping, mountain climbing, and take part in other eco-friendly events. On April 29th, 2005, a 5-year-old girl named Yuki Onishi was digging up bamboo shoots to celebrate Greenery Day. After finding her first shoot and showing it to her mother, she ran off to find some more. About 20 minutes later, her mother realized she was not with the other diggers, and a search began. A police dog was brought in to track the scent. It reached a spot in the nearby forest and then stopped. 4 other dogs were brought in, and all led the search party to the same exact spot. No trace of Yuki has ever been found, and she has been coined the disappearing girl. In Yuki's town, there was a small festival held at the back of the visitor center of her town. There were about 60 people gathered, including Yuki, her mother, and her sister. In the morning, the participants walked around the gardens at the back of the center and took in views of the beautiful flowers and the mountains. Then around 1 p.m., the event had a bamboo shoot digging event where locals could dig for their own bamboo shoots, which are used for cooking in Japanese dishes. A video captured by one of the participants shows Yuki at the flower viewing. And her mother also reported that Yuki was helping her and her sister dig bamboo shoots until around 1:30 p.m. The digging wrapped up around 2 p.m. and the kids were supposed to meet their mother at the time in the bamboo grove area, but Yuki never showed up. At 2 p.m., Yuki's mother couldn't find Yuki and started looking around. She also asked the people around her, and many people started searching for the lost girl. But after an hour, no one had seen or heard from Yuki, so the visitor center called Setagaya police station and reported her missing. When the police arrived just before 4 p.m., a total of 100 people, including visitors, community staff, volunteers, and police dogs, searched the grounds until 9 p.m., but no one could find Yuki anywhere. Throughout the next few days, hundreds of police staff and volunteers searched not only the visitor center, but the bamboo forest north of the center, the Tambe pond, which was next to the bamboo grove, and surrounding areas. The police dogs were able to pick up the scent of Yuki using her water bottle and leading from where she was digging for bamboo shoots until a certain area of the bamboo grove, but then the scent disappeared. Several police dogs were used and all followed the scent to that same spot, but the trail went cold and no one could figure out where she had gone from there. After leaving her mother, police were able to locate and confirm 2 witnesses who came in contact with Yuki after she left her mother at 1:30. NTV in December 2008 reported that 2 participants at the event came into contact with Yuki after 1:30. The first was a junior high school girl who said she greeted and briefly spoke with Yuki. The next was a man who was walking toward the meeting spot where people including Yuki's mother were waiting. He saw her walking around 1:40 but did not speak to her. Police interviewed many event goers, but none of them recalled seeing a 5-year-old girl walking along towards the parking area, campsite, or away from the visitor center. Later in the summer, police drained the Tambay pond in the event that Yuki might have slipped and fallen into the pond and drowned, but Yuki's body, nor any of her clothes were found. 3,000 people were involved in the search for Yuki, but neither Yuki nor any of her belongings were found anywhere around the visitor center and surrounding ponds and forests. Police investigated a variety of possibilities and theories, but even after 16 years, there have been no significant clues or information to locate Yuki. KSB News reported that Riki Shimazu, chief of Life Safety Division, continues to search for Yuki, quote, with the feeling that she is absolutely alive, and asks anyone with any information on the case contact the Setagaya police. There have been a variety of theories of what happened to Yuki, some of which have been discredited while others still remain a possibility. Theory 1. She was taken by an animal. There were those who suggested that since Yuki's scent stopped at a certain place, an animal like an eagle, a monkey, bear, or other wildlife grabbed Yuki and escaped with her body. Ground animals seem unlikely, as experts said if Yuki had been taken by a ground animal, other witnesses would have heard or seen the animal or Yuki as she was being taken. Also, there would have been tracks on the ground and possible blood or clothing from Yuki. However, police found no evidence of any kind of struggle or attack. Theory 2. Drowned in the pond. As mentioned earlier, police decided to drain the pond and thoroughly search for any remains or possessions of Yuki. However, search found no such objects. The pond is also not very deep or steep, so it wouldn't be hard for Yuki to get out of the pond even if she fell. There were also no signs of footprints or slippage that might occur if Yuki had fallen into the pond. Theory 3. Lost in the forest. There were some theories that suggested that Yuki went deep into the forest to find bamboo shoots where other people might not have dug, and while in the forest she had gotten lost in the process. This might be a possibility depending on how far she might have gone, but police and searchers searched the forest and found no traces of Yuki. Theory 4. Taken by a... This seems to be the most likely scenario for a variety of reasons. As Greenery Day was the beginning of the Golden Week holiday, many families were out celebrating. Along with the event, the area had many campers, hikers, and bird watchers, so there would be many chances to blend in with all the tourists and not stick out. Since the police dogs lost the trail of Yuki, all at the same general location, many people thought a person who saw Yuki alone approached her, picked her up, and took her away. However, there were no witnesses who saw any such person carrying a girl. According to TV Asahi, there were witnesses who saw a man with a large backpack walking around the event. Police looked into the possibility that this man might have picked up Yuki, placed her in his backpack, and left the site. However, unless the man used something to subdue Yuki, it would be hard to put a 5-year-old girl in a backpack without her screaming, making noise, or moving around. It has been 17 years since Yuki has disappeared, so as of today she would be about 22 years old. Kagawa police released a sketch of what she might look like now if she was still alive. Police continue to search for Yuki and ask the public if anyone has any old footage from the event, whether it be videos or photos, to contact the police in Setagaya City. Without having recovered anything Yuki was wearing or her remains, there is no way to find any closure and move on. Police, family, the community, and those who were aware of the case have waited years to find any clues of Yuki's whereabouts. Until Yuki or her remains are found, the people who knew her and her story will continue to hope that one day answers can be found. Between June and July 1992, 5 young people committed under mysterious circumstances in Kumatori, Osaka. 3 were friends, and those friends knew 2 others whose deaths several months before and had been ruled accidents. Both of the accidental deaths involved ingesting paint thinner. All 7 of the deaths occurred within 0.7 miles of each other, and the 5 youths who knew each other were all involved in the motorcycle gangs. Where the person hung themselves, the rope marks were horizontal instead of diagonal. Another of the hangings was from a chestnut tree in the forest, but police never found what the person stood on to reach the tree. Additionally, 1 girl died from stab wounds in the neck and chest, a strange method to say the least. Several of the youths also reported being stalked before their deaths. On December 30th, 2000, a family of 4 was brutally stabbed and strangled to death by an unknown man who, to this day, still remains unidentified. The victims were Mikio Miyazawa, age 44, Yasuko Miyazawa, age 41, and their children Nina, age 10, and Rei, age 6. After the murder was committed, the killer stayed in the house for hours after the killing. He even went as far as using the restroom without bothering to flush the toilet. Despite having so much evidence, including the killer's DNA, the killer has not been identified to this day. The murder took place in Tokyo's Setagaya ward, next to a public park in Kamisoshigaya. On December 31st, the mother of Yasuko Miyazawa, who lived next door, repeatedly buzzed her daughter on the intercom. She thought this was strange, not hearing back from anyone, so she went next door and used her own key to let herself in, and that is when she saw and discovered the gruesome scene. The police forensic team stated that the killer had left behind so many clues, along with not flushing the toilet, as they discovered what he had eaten in a previous meal, something that contained string beans, sesame seeds, known because he stayed around long enough to use that toilet before leaving. The killer's DNA suggested that his origins might not be Japanese, and at the very least he had some ties to the Korean peninsula. Other microscopic evidence also suggested ties to Korea as well. As mentioned before, despite all the evidence found by the forensics team, the killer has never been identified. He could still be out there to this day, living a happy and normal life. Just below the waters off Yonaguni Jima, there are actually ruins of a Japanese Atlantis, some claim, an ancient city sunk by an earthquake about 2,000 years ago. This is the belief of Masaaki Kimura, a marine geologist at the University of Ryukyu in Japan who has been diving at the site to measure and map its formations for more than 15 years. Masaaki stated, "The largest structure looks like a complicated, monolithic stepped pyramid that rises from the depth of 25 meters, or 82 feet. There are some skeptics, such as Robert Schoch, a professor of science and mathematics at Boston University, who has dived at the site. He is quoted as saying, "I'm not convinced that any of the major features or structures are man-made steps or terraces, but that they're all natural. It's basic geology and classic stratigraphy for sandstones, which tend to break along planes and give you these very straight edges, particularly in an area with lots of faults and tectonic activity." The Japanese government's Agency for Cultural Affairs nor the government of Okinawa Prefecture recognized the remains off Yonaguni as an important cultural property, said agency spokesperson Emiko Ishida. Some experts believe that the structures could be all that's left of Mu, a fabled Pacific civilization rumored to have vanished beneath the waves. Kimura had mentioned that he believed the formations could be natural, but that changed his mind once he made his first dive to the site. He is quoted as saying, "I think it's very difficult to explain away their origin as being purely natural because of the vast amount of evidence of man's influence on the structures." He said, "The characters and animal monuments in the water, which I have been able to partially recover in my laboratory, suggest the culture comes from the Asian continent. One example I have described as an underwater sphinx resembles a Chinese or ancient Okinawan king." The world's largest recorded tsunami struck Yonaguni Jima in April 1771, with an estimated height of more than 131 feet or 40 meters. Kimura had mentioned, so such a fate might have also befallen the ancient civilization as well. The structures include the ruins of a castle, a triumphal arch, 5 temples, and at least 1 large stadium, all of which are connected by roads and water channels and are partially shielded by what could be huge retaining walls. After conducting his research, Kimura believes the ruins date back to at least 5,000 years. Thank you guys so much for watching. I had a lot of fun editing this video over the last few days. It's been so much fun getting into this kind of creative mindset again when I'm not doing other things like photography and all that kind of stuff. So if you made it to the end, I appreciate you. Be sure to give it a like and leave me a comment, as well as let me know if there's anything that you want to hear in the future, because I plan on making this a whole series solely based around Japan. Once we kind of go through all that, I'm sure we'll kind of venture off into other places as well. I just figured this would be a cool place to start just because there is a lot surrounding Japan when it comes to things that are kind of like unexplained or just kind of weird or odd. But yeah, thank you guys again so much for watching this video. Be sure to give some love to my friend Kahori as well. She did the voiceover in the first part of the video. She's super cool. She went that extra mile and did that creepy voice. But the image that you see on screen is a teaser for something that I have planned in the future. Hopefully this year is when I can get it all set up. But if you're not following me on social media, be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of that, same username, to get updates on what I have planned in the future. Alright guys, I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.